There was something magical about growing up in the 1970s. It wasn't because life was perfect. It wasn't because everything was easier. In fact, many families had very little, and people worked incredibly hard just to make ends meet. But somehow, those years left behind memories that still make millions of people smile today. The 70s were filled with simple moments that became unforgettable treasures. It was a time when happiness didn't come from having the newest gadget or the fastest internet. It came from laughter, friendship, imagination, and spending real time together. If you were lucky enough to grow up during that decade, chances are there are moments you still remember as if they happened yesterday. The smell of fresh-cut grass on a summer afternoon. The sound of children playing until the streetlights came on. The excitement of waiting all week for your favorite television show. The joy of hearing your favorite song on the radio. These weren't just everyday experiences. They became memories that lasted a lifetime. Looking back today, it's easy to understand why so many people say they were grateful to grow up in the 70s. Here are 10 reasons why that unforgettable decade still holds such a special place in so many hearts. The first reason is simple. We truly knew how to play. Children didn't need expensive electronics to have fun. The entire neighborhood became one giant playground. Sidewalks became racetracks. Empty fields became kingdoms waiting to be explored. A cardboard box could become a spaceship. A tree became a pirate ship. A bicycle became freedom itself. Kids invented games on the spot. They played hide-and-seek, tag, hopscotch, marbles, jump rope, and kickball for hours without ever feeling bored. Every day felt like a new adventure because imagination did most of the work. There was no need for batteries or updates. All you needed were friends and a little creativity. The second reason is that neighbors actually knew each other. Front doors were often unlocked. People sat on their porches in the evening, waving to everyone who walked by. If someone's lawn needed mowing or a family was going through a difficult time, neighbors showed up without being asked. Children knew the names of the people living on every house on the street. Parents watched out not only for their own children but for everyone else's too. If you misbehaved across the neighborhood, your parents often knew before you got home. There was a comforting feeling of belonging. Streets weren't just places where people lived. They were communities where friendships grew naturally over time. The third reason is family dinners. No one was staring at a phone during dinner because there weren't any smartphones. Television often stayed off while families gathered around one table to share a meal. It wasn't just about eating. It was about talking. Parents asked about school. Children shared funny stories. Brothers and sisters teased one another. Grandparents passed down family history without even realizing they were creating priceless memories. Those conversations helped families stay connected. They built trust, laughter, and traditions that many people still miss today. The fourth reason was television itself. Watching television in the 70s was completely different from today. There were only a few channels, and you couldn't watch anything whenever you wanted. If your favorite show came on Friday night, everyone made sure they were home. Entire families gathered together around one television set. The commercials became familiar. Theme songs were unforgettable. The next day at school or work, everyone talked about the same episodes because everyone had watched them together. Television became something people experienced as a family instead of alone. The fifth reason was music. The soundtrack of the 1970s was unforgettable. Every song seemed to carry emotion, hope, excitement, or comfort. Whether it was disco filling dance floors, soulful ballads playing through car speakers, classic rock echoing across neighborhoods, or country songs telling heartfelt stories, music connected people in a special way. People carefully placed records onto turntables and listened from beginning to end. Radio stations introduced listeners to new favorites, and recording songs onto cassette tapes became an event all by itself. Music wasn't just background noise. It became part of people's lives, their friendships, their first dances, their road trips, and their greatest memories. The sixth reason is that life moved more slowly. The world wasn't constantly demanding attention every second of the day. There were no endless notifications buzzing in your pocket. No social media feeds that never stopped scrolling. No pressure to answer messages immediately. People had time to simply sit outside and watch the sunset. They read books without interruption. They enjoyed long conversations. They visited friends without scheduling weeks in advance. Patience was part of everyday life. Waiting wasn't considered a problem. It was simply normal. Looking back now, that slower pace allowed people to appreciate the little moments that often pass unnoticed today. The seventh reason was learning independence. Parents often gave children far more freedom than many do today. Kids walked to school together. They rode bicycles across town. They explored nearby woods, parks, rivers, and empty lots without adults following every step. Of course, parents expected responsibility. Children learned how to solve small problems on their own. They figured things out, made mistakes, and learned valuable lessons through experience. Those adventures built confidence. Every scraped knee came with a story. Every challenge made young people a little stronger. The eighth reason was holidays that felt truly magical. Christmas decorations slowly appeared in neighborhoods. Halloween costumes were often homemade. Thanksgiving brought families together around tables filled with recipes passed down through generations. Birthdays didn't need giant events to feel special. Sometimes a homemade cake, a few balloons, and close friends were enough to create memories that lasted forever. The excitement wasn't built around expensive gifts. It came from anticipation, tradition, and spending time with people you loved. The ninth reason was appreciating what we had. Many families couldn't afford luxury items. Children often wore hand-me-down clothes from older brothers or sisters. Toys were cared for because replacing them wasn't easy. When someone received a new bicycle, it became their greatest treasure. A new pair of shoes was exciting. A special family vacation was remembered for decades. Because people had less, they often appreciated more. Gratitude came naturally when every little blessing felt important. The 10th reason is perhaps the greatest of all. People spent more time living in the moment. Photographs were precious because cameras used film. You couldn't instantly take hundreds of pictures. Every photo mattered. Instead of recording every experience, people simply experienced it. They watched fireworks with their own eyes. They laughed without reaching for a phone. They enjoyed concerts by singing along instead of watching through a screen. The memories lived inside people's hearts long before they appeared inside photo albums. That ability to fully enjoy the present is something many people still miss today. Of course, no decade was perfect. The 1970s had challenges, struggles, and difficult times just like every generation before and after it. Families worried about money. The world faced uncertainty. People experienced heartbreak, disappointment, and loss. But perhaps that's exactly why the beautiful moments shine even brighter in memory. When life wasn't always easy, people learned to treasure simple joys. A neighborhood baseball game. Fresh cookies cooling in the kitchen. Rain tapping against the windows while everyone stayed inside together. The family station wagon packed for a summer road trip. Saturday morning cartoons. The smell of crayons on the first day of school. Roller skating with friends. Watching fireflies dance across warm summer evenings. Building snowmen during winter afternoons. Listening to grandparents tell stories that seemed larger than life. These ordinary moments became extraordinary because people were fully present for them. The greatest gift of growing up in the 70s wasn't any particular toy, television show, or song. It was the way life encouraged connection. Connection with family. Connection with neighbors. Connection with nature. Connection with imagination. connection with simple happiness. Many of those values are timeless. They don't belong only to one decade. They can still be found today whenever people choose to slow down, spend time together, and appreciate life's little blessings. Children today may grow up with amazing technology, but they can still experience the joy of riding bicycles with friends. Families can still eat dinner together. Neighbors can still introduce themselves. Grandparents can still tell stories that inspire younger generations. The best parts of the 70s were never really about the decade itself. They were about people. About kindness. About laughter echoing through neighborhoods. About friendships that lasted for decades. About believing that a simple afternoon could become an unforgettable adventure. Those values never grow old. As the years continue to pass, the world will keep changing. New inventions will appear. New generations will create their own memories. New songs will fill the air, and new stories will be told. But somewhere, the spirit of the 1970s continues to live on. It lives every time children choose to play outside instead of staying indoors all day. It lives every time a family gathers around one table without distractions. It lives every time neighbors stop to help one another. It lives every time someone listens carefully to an old story told by a grandparent. It lives every time friends laugh until the sun goes down. The memories of growing up in the 70s remind us that happiness has never depended on having the newest things. It has always depended on sharing meaningful moments with people who matter. Perhaps that's why those memories remain so vivid after all these years. They remind us that life's richest treasures cannot be bought. They are created. One conversation. One adventure. One family meal. One song. One sunset. One unforgettable day at a time. And maybe that is the greatest lesson the 1970s still have to offer us. No matter how fast the world becomes, we can always choose to slow down. We can choose to look up instead of down at a screen. We can choose to spend more time with the people we love. We can choose gratitude over endless wanting, kindness over hurry, and memories over distractions. Because in the end, the moments that stay with us are rarely the biggest ones. They are the quiet evenings, the shared laughter, the familiar faces, and the simple joys that fill our hearts without asking for anything in return. The 1970s may belong to history now, but the values that made that decade so unforgettable still belong to all of us. If we carry those values into today, compassion, imagination, togetherness, and appreciation, we can create a future that is just as meaningful as the past we cherish. And perhaps, years from now, another generation will look back on their own childhoods with the same warmth, the same gratitude, and the same smile, remembering that the greatest moments in life were never about what they owned, but about who they shared them with. That is the true legacy of growing up in the 70s, and it is a reminder that every generation has the power to create memories that will shine brightly for a lifetime.